All right, my name is Mitch Perez. I am in Tallinn, Estonia. I've been there for about 4 years now, but I am from Chicago. Kate Anderson asked me to say that. Yep. She's also from Chicago. I grew up like 20 minutes from where she lived for quite a while. But anyways, I'm really grateful to be here with you all today. Like I said, so this class is specifically on spiritual prioritization and organization. And I want to get a feel for the room before I really get into it. I want you to, what we're going to do, you're going to raise your hand. I want you to rate yourself 1 to 5 on how you feel in regard to organizing your life. 5 being like, brother, there's not even a piece of dust on my floor. And my whole schedule is like figured out, and I got everything on top of it. I'm almost perfect or so. 3 is like I'm average. Like some things in my schedule are a little off or whatever, and I get a little flustered by things because I didn't plan well. And then 1 is just like you're an absolute kerfuffle. You're like, what the heck is my life? I don't know how to use a planner or schedule my life. What does that even mean? All right, make sense? So I want you to raise your hand if you feel like you're a 5. Nice. I wouldn't rate myself a 5 either. Raise your hand if you think you're a 4. My people. Nice. All right, raise your hand if you feel like you're a 3. Okay, majority. All right, 2. Okay, and the 1s. I'm here for you. All right. No, I'm here for everybody here. But, okay, so this is not a class where I'm going to tell you to read and pray every day, okay? I'm going to assume that you already know that you need to do that and know that you need to plan for that, okay? This is also a class where I'm not going to tell you you need to rest more. I'm also going to assume that you know that you need to rest and you need to figure out your rest, all right? I want to get those out of the way because I know that a lot of times when you hear a lot of classes, especially on this topic, you'll hear about those 3 the most. I wanted to talk a little bit more in depth about some other things, all right? But yeah, so this will be somewhat interactive. You're going to do some exercise with me as well, so I hope you'll enjoy it. But so this topic, I really believe that knowing how to properly prioritize and organize your life is actually a secret ingredient to allowing the other parts of your walk with God to flourish, all right? It really is. It's this silent, like, producer of your life that will really make your life easier in a lot of ways spiritually, I think. And I'm guessing if you are here, it looks like most of us, it's because it's something that it doesn't necessarily come naturally, or it's something you want to improve upon. And that's awesome. That is the main point of this class in a lot of ways. But I find that this stuff comes somewhat naturally to some people, and then for most, including me, I think it's taught and learned, actually. All right? And so this class is for those that continually feel stressed because we feel disorganized or out of place. Those of us who feel like life has more of a hold on you rather than you having a hold on life. Those of us who feel like we've lost sight of what is most important and we need to get back on track. And even for those who feel like they don't know how to plan well and lose control of their week pretty quickly. All right? And if you're one of these people, I'm really glad you're here, all right? I feel like in this category, we can always improve in different areas. A little bit about me, if you know me, I'm particularly passionate about this topic. A little in an annoying way, actually. I am a clean freak, I'm an organization freak, prioritization freak, whatever you want to call it or so. I might even say I deeply love this topic. And I enjoy getting my life organized, and I love helping others get organized. And I think it's because it makes our purpose more clear. And it's a little bit a part of who I am, but like when I was 10 years old, I actually started doing my laundry all by myself. And I also organized my closet by color, I organized it by style, and the last time I wore each clothing. Now you understand what I'm saying, all right? And that's just one thing that I do. I have many other things that I do that are like that. I'm not going to share that with them. You're going to think I'm a psycho. My wife already does. First couple months of marriage was interesting, But anyways, I do most things in my life systematically and organizationally, all right? But I've also learned over the years some things that have taught me how to be more consistent and have direction and routine that's rooted in God. And I hope we're going to learn that today. I understand that you all live some really busy lives, though. When I was your age, too, I experienced full on what you guys also experience, maybe even a little bit more. I've been working full-time. When I was 19, I started working full-time in the corporate world. I started doing also full-time school, and I helped out with the ministry. And this oftentimes was just, it overwhelmed my life. I had 40 hours to my job. I had at least 30 hours to my schooling, and then I had the ministry on top. And I remember when I was your guys' age just feeling like, what is life? This is wild. I barely can think straight at times. And I've learned over time, though, how to organize my life to do all those things and still give my all to each of them, too, and do well. I did well in the business world. I did well in school, and I've done okay in ministry. I'm here, and I'm trying my best to serve everybody who I come across. So I know what it's like to be in your shoes. When I was your age, I was spent about 100 hours at least a week on those things. And I think it's important to really learn how to manage those things, though, as you're doing them. And I think the main reason I even made it through that time in my life is because I kept God at the center of my life. There's no other way I couldn't have made it through. And I think it's the main key ingredient, obviously, that you all need to also have within yourself when you think about organizing your life, is God at the center. And so it's a deeply spiritual aspect, but when I talk to people about this topic, I find that not many people think of it as a spiritual topic, actually. When they read passages on organizing our life, planning our life, I often hear people kind of like waft it off, like, oh, yeah, that's cool. Right, yeah, planning sounds cool. That's not me. Like, my life is decently organized. But there's actually a lot of sayings or scriptures in the Bible about this topic. But we need God's teachings on it. And so when we organize our life around God, we're never actually in need, no matter how busy you are. All right, next slide. All right, these are our points for today. Now, I'm not into astronomy or space or anything like that. But I really, as I was writing this lesson, I felt like these points really tie in perfectly for actually what we're going to talk about today. The baby really likes the topics, so that's good, or the points. Nice. All right, let's go to our first point, though. Jupiter. Now, let's start with the biggest issue at hand. And I think this point is Jupiter because it's the biggest planet in our solar system besides the sun. Now, I'd like to show, you can raise your hand and answer this. There's always one or two big responsibilities or commitments that have the largest responsibility on our life during this stage of life. What are they? School, there you go, there's one. What's the other? Work, right. Next slide. Next slide again. There we go, right? These are the two things that they envelop your life. It's like, can I do anything outside of this sometimes, right? It's overwhelming. Now, we know these things are good. Next slide. We know that God believes they're important because there are endless verses on this topic. Hit it again? Nope, go back, sorry. Oh, interesting. The right side should have all scriptures on work from Proverbs, but it's not there for some reason. Proverbs alone has 40 to 50 scriptures on work. The whole Bible in itself has about 450 to 600 verses on work alone. Proverbs maybe the most, actually. And it says a lot of what we need to follow. But what I think we all know, and what I think we need to each be reminded, is that work in school is just not your purpose. Yeah. It's a problem I find everywhere. Now next. Colossians 3:23 through 24 says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving. So we're called to be good stewards of our work, but our purpose is in the Lord, is what this passage says to me. However, some of us treat work and school like it's Jupiter. Next slide. Thank you. this massive planet. It's the biggest planet in our solar system, and it has the largest gravitational pull out of any of the planets. Except for the sun, of course. I'm sure there's some science nerd out there who's like, oh, it's the sun. Don't try me. All right. It's like it pulls us, and we can't resist it, is how school and work feels at times. We treat work and school like it's this gigantic thing that just takes over our life. Like it's unavoidable. You can never compromise on it. It's as if you're married to it. And we start to revolve our life around it. And perhaps it feels that way. And I'd like to hear from you guys. You can raise your hand. In your opinion, why does it feel that way sometimes? Yep.
Money. You need money.
Right. You need money. Can't argue with that. Anything else? Yep.
My boss expects things from me because I have to meet those expectations.
Yeah. Boss's expectations. That's good. That's good. Kate?
Work and like schoolwork is a representation of like yourself.
Your reputation, actually, in some ways, right? Yep. Takes the most amount of time. Yep. Security. Awesome. Last one.
We live in a world that always demands more.
Woo. Preach, brother. You come on up. Tell me about it. Yeah. It really feels that way. All of what you guys said is true. And the truth of the matter is we commit ourselves to these things. It's what pays our bills. It's what seemingly also provides our future. And most often, we revolve ourselves around the things with the biggest consequences or opportunities for our life. But it's not our life source. We all know that God is. But sometimes our life looks different. Next slide. We all know this passage, Matthew 6:33. It says, "But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." We all know this passage. I used to get sick of this passage because I'm like, man, is this the third straight sermon I've heard this scripture? Like, I know this like the back of my hand. But sometimes our lives look very different from this. And I think some of us turn this scripture backwards to make it look like this. Hopefully you can see that. But it says, "But seek first my needs and wants, and all these things will rest on my shoulders." Is what happens actually more often, I find. I've seen it in my own life, too, where I'm like, I'm just going to muscle my way through this time. I'm just going to work hard, I'm going to study hard, and I'm going to make my way through. And I just come through like in shambles. But if God is truly our main priority, he takes care of all of our needs. And if God is truly our life source, it shapes how we organize our life. In regards to this topic, what makes me most discouraged is I see way too often that people don't start with God in their decision making. But God is brought in during the middle or the end of their decision making. This is really what gets to me at times. It's a common theme I hear from people who are disorganized, as if he's an afterthought, a commitment that gets second place. In some people's case, not even second place or third place. It's obviously last place. I'll ask students what their future looks like and why they are doing it all the time. And I can't tell you how often God never comes up. Never. Just thinking about all these other things. I'll hear simple answers about a future career, moving somewhere else, maybe buying a nice house, maybe having dreams of traveling. These are a lot of the answers I'll end up hearing. Of course, there are some who talk about, like, this is what I want to do for God. And that can actually involve traveling, buying a nice house, and it can involve all these other things. But it has to start with God, not end with God. Yeah. If God is number one in our life choices will start with him. To make it simple, there are two really simple questions we each need to ask ourselves before making commitments. Real simple. How will this affect my faith? Like, will it benefit my faith or will it hurt it? Will this support my faith? And how will this decision affect the kingdom of God? I find these are the two most simple questions you need to ask yourself before you commit yourself to something. Really important. Whether it be school, a new job, and moving. Are there any Estonians here? They shouldn't be here. Dang it. You're going to hear me talk about this more in the next couple of weeks. But anyways, they probably get sick and tired of me sometimes. I'll say this. The 3 biggest things you should be getting your advice on in your life are dating, or like a relationship with an opposite sex, new job, and moving. And the reason one of the guys at Disciple is here, and I always ask, why though? It's because those are the 3 biggest reasons people walk away from God. And it's always starts, the biggest one is the relationships with somebody. The second one is the new job, and the other one is moving. And with the job, it's usually like somebody finds a great opportunity, and that's what actually ends up taking them away. And moving is self-explanatory. You get kind of far from the body and you just slowly grow distant. So we each need to bring our decisions before God because we are searching for His will. And it doesn't mean He doesn't want to bless your desires of your heart, but it means we submit ourselves to His plan. Even the Lord's Prayer says it in Matthew 6, 9 through 10. This then is how you should pray. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Instead, our prayers for our decisions, I hear it sometimes, but I also can feel it from people, is more like, next slide, where it sounds like this, like, Lord, please give me this job. I just really need it. I want it. I need to pay the bills. Yes, yes, yes. Or Lord, make it happen so I can move to Australia. I just really want to move to Australia. I want to be on the beach every morning. Lord, give me an A on this exam because I didn't really study and I'm in the last moment here, and if I fail this class, I got to take it again next semester. I got to pay more. All this stuff, right? Gosh, I was that student at times. Lord, give me that A. I just need it. I need it. I need it in this moment. I'm not saying these are bad prayers, but how often do we ask for God's will to be done in our prayers when it comes to our commitments is the real question. You need to keep in mind, if it seems like the commitment you're considering is ambiguous, you need to slow down and get some advice. And what I mean by ambiguous is you kind of just want to do it, but you don't even know why you're doing it. Just it's like cool or fun. I'm not saying like everything in your life needs to be like deep thought, like this is exactly why I'm doing it, right? Not every decision needs to be like that. But I'm talking about bigger commitments in your life. If you're not sure why you're doing it, slow down. Take some time. Talk with somebody through it. Get some advice. You don't want to make a decision that you'll regret. And as well, if the commitment isn't going to support your faith and or not benefit the kingdom, what is the point? What is it then? I'll ask students that sometimes, I don't know, I just want to do it. I'm like, yeah, cool, go ahead, just do it then. We'll see if that's going to be fulfilling at the end of that road then. Sure. You might gain something, but you might also gain the world and yet forfeit your very self, right? Luke 9:25. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world and yet lose or forfeit their very self? Some decisions leave us lost and identified by whatever we got ourselves into then. And we're like, how the heck did I end up here? What happened? And when we die and meet God one day, He's not going to say, well done and good and faithful engineer. Well done, good and faithful cook. Well done, good and faithful salesman. Well done, good and faithful lawyer, nurse. No. He's not even going to, I hope He doesn't say to me, well done, good and faithful minister. I hope He says, well done, good and faithful servant. That's what I'm hoping for. Go get. There it is. Nice. We want Jesus to recognize us as His disciples when we meet Him. You don't want Him to recognize you as a student or a worker. That is below each and every one of us here. You are called to something way higher. But sometimes we just get caught up in these distractions of what seems so valuable in this world. But I tell you, when you, I wasn't planning on talking about this, but you ever seen those videos of they interview old people who are near death and they ask you, what are your biggest regrets in life? It's oftentimes like, I wish I would have spent more time with family. Wish I would have told this person I love them. It's not like I wish I would have studied more. I wish I would have worked harder. I've never seen that video. So you're more than these. All right, next point. So we're going to number 2 here. Earth. It's where we live. And our next point is our home planet because it's perfect in its design and organization. Its cycles and rhythms are the same, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Our Earth is very calculated, which tells me our Creator is also very calculated. As a side note, I watched a video recently where a guy surveyed 100 of some of the most well-known theologians and apologists in the world about what is the best argument for the existence of God. Majority by far said earth and creation. They say this because our earth is perfect and timely. This couldn't have been done by accident. It's really hard to argue that we're all here by accident. The earth is here by accident. We too actually are not an accident, and we can't make accidents in our decisions then. We must be careful in counting the cost of those commitments that we make, big and small. You know what the Bible calls those who make decisions that aren't calculated? It's someone that it will be ridiculed. Luke 14, 28 through 30 says, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule you, saying this person began to build and wasn't able to finish. I find when someone's life is disorganized, the main problem usually started at the beginning. It wasn't in the middle or it wasn't at the end. They didn't count the costs enough before making the decision, actually. Then the person looks like a fool for not being fully aware of where their decision would lead them. I've had situations like that. I got a really funny story. One time when I was a freshman in university, I was walking and I knew the leader of the art department, and she said, "Hey, we have a position open for like modeling or whatever. Would you be interested in that?" And I was like, "Heck no." She goes, "You pay us $14 an hour." I said, "What?" And she goes, yeah. All you got to do is stand there for like a couple hours. You get paid by the hour, 14 an hour. And I was like, I'm desperate. And so I didn't really ask too many details. I remember like a couple days later, I tell my mom about it. And my mom was like, so son, do you realize that's a nude modeling job? I said, what are you talking about, woman? What? No, she would have told me that, right? She goes, you should probably make sure. I was like, yeah, I guess. What makes you so confident? She goes, I have tons of friends who went through art school. They all have to paint naked people. And they always ask random people in the school. And so I was like, all right, fine, I'll go to the office and ask. I came in and I said, hey, my mom told me this thing. It's probably not true. And I laid it out to her, and she's like, no, your mom was right. And I was like, oh, shoot. And actually, I took it as a moment to share my convictions, and I shared my faith with this lady. I was like, I just think this is really impure. And she had nothing to say. She was like, I actually don't disagree. And she was like, you obviously don't have to do this if you don't want. Respect your beliefs. And I went on my way. But I was so close to becoming an absolute fool for going to this, actually. Oh my gosh, it's embarrassing for me to even think about. And so we're not sometimes fully aware of where our decisions will lead. And the hard part of living a disorganized life is it hurts other areas of our life silently. It hurts for me to look at this image. Some of you, maybe it looks too familiar, and some of you, you're just like, oh, take it off the screen, right? This also hurts others, our disorganization. And it comes in ways that we don't really expect or see, because sometimes we're just not caring about what others want or think about, too, and their time, their priorities, too. When we become overwhelmed by life, we all of a sudden do not have time to go to church on Sunday or Devo on Friday. I don't have time to be in the Word, or I'm too stressed to pray. I don't have time to be with my fellow brothers and sisters. I'm just too busy. Anybody ever felt like that? Yeah. Anybody ever said that? Apparently the baby has. I've been there. When I felt super swamped, it feels like I can't do anything else. Then I start doing things out of duty rather than purpose. I then start to slip in many areas of my life. And for me, the first one that usually goes is prayer. I get so stressed sometimes, I'm just like, I can't even think of the words I want to say to God right now. I know I should pray, so I'm going to try to pray. And then like 10 seconds in, I'm just thinking about this other thing I need to do. And I'm like, oh, wait, that's right, I was praying. You know? And I'm just like, oh, what's going on with my mind even right now? And I'm sure we each have experienced this in our lives, where we just feel swamped. You start to feel like you have hardly any time for anything else, even though you actually do have time. But you're drowning in responsibilities. But there's a different issue in today's world, and it simply drives me crazy. And I don't think most are drowning in responsibility, at least in my experiences with people. But people still have the audacity to use this supreme phrase, I don't have time. Oh, my. If I got a nickel for every time I heard this, I'd be a millionaire. This phrase drives me crazy. I lost my mind on it many years ago. I used to help lead the campus ministry in Ann Arbor, Michigan. It's one of the top 20 public universities in the world, so it's highly demanding. And I can't tell you how many students I would come across who are like, I'm just too busy, I'm studying too much, or I'm a part of this club, just don't have the time. And it drove me nuts. I started to ask, how is it nobody has time? Even I have a few hours to spare in the week. And I'm working, I'm doing school, and I'm doing ministry. This just can't be true. I said this thought needs to be challenged. And that's what we're going to do today, even. So I created this simple tool. I don't really have a cool name for it, but I just call it the 168 Challenge. And that's what we're going to do today. I want you to pull out your phone, or I want you to pull out a paper or whatever. I'm going to run through this challenge with you. You're not going to share it with me. You can share it with somebody else if you really want. But I want to show you what this kind of looks like for our life. I found this to be really helpful, and I would go through this with a lot of the students at University of Michigan. So you can even pull out a calculator, because does anybody know why it's called 168? Why?
That's the amount of hours in a week.
You win. Yes. 168 hours in a week, right? So this is how we spend each of our week. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you an example student that I had in Ann Arbor, and these were some of his answers as I went through this. This guy who was just like, he had no time for nothing. All right. First one is, how many hours of sleep you get each night, right? That's the thing you spend the most time, hopefully, doing in your week. All right, next. This guy got about 7 hours a night, right? 7 times 7, 49. How many hours a week do you work? This brother worked at a grocery store. He worked there about part-time for like 20 hours a week. How many hours a week do you have school? This student had 18 hours of class a week, and he spent another 20 hours doing studying and homework. And that's actually not even enough. Studies show that for every hour of class you have, you should be studying for 3 more hours. Hate to break it to you. Next. How many hours do you spend commuting to work, school, miscellaneous things? For this guy, it was 5 hours. Next. How many hours a week do you spend at church, midweek, Friday devos, meetings of the body? And for him, it was 6 hours a week. Next, how much time do you spend reading and praying each day? And I find this is true for most. It's somewhere in between usually 10 to 20 minutes. But for him, it was 20 minutes a day. That adds up to about 2 hours and 20 minutes a week or so. Next. How many hours do you spend cooking and eating in a week? This brother loved to cook, actually. And it would take him about 7 hours a week. Maybe even more, actually. How many hours do you spend with your girlfriend outside of events? He was dating. About 3 hours or so. How many hours do you work out? Brother didn't work out. That's all right. That's his decision. How many hours do you spend on your hobbies? This brother, he's particularly loved chess, and he played at a high level, and he would spend 7 hours at least a week on it. Now, there's probably even more questions, but they're all, I would say, smaller or so. Does anybody know in total how much this is? Anybody do the calculation for themselves? I'll give you bonus points in my heart if you get it right now. 5, 4. Yeah, you. That's not what I have down. You might be right, but I have that as 137 hours and 20 minutes. Now, what's 168 minus 137 hours and 20 minutes? Who's good at math here? Anybody know? Yep.
Almost 31 hours of free time.
31 hours and 40 minutes. And again. And again. Yeah. 31 hours and 40 minutes. So I said to this brother, would you look at that? You have more free time in a week than there are hours in a day. Now, when I do this with people, what usually happens then is they start to attempt to come up with more things that they have going on. Oh, I didn't tell you about this. I didn't tell you about that. And then usually this stuff makes them, they just start saying stuff that makes them feel like they don't have time in their life. And then what almost it always comes to is that they end up starting to share examples of laziness that were hidden with the amount of time on their phone, social media, messaging someone, watching TV, and similar activities. Some of us would not like to admit how much time we spend on these things, right? Including me. If you know me, I love watching disc golf on YouTube. I could get caught up in that all weekend long, man. I'd watch it all day if I could. Some of you are like, what the heck is disc golf? But it's my guilty pleasure. I love it. I love watching it. But we all, I find, have more time than we realize. Even at some of the peak moments of your life. Now, even that list I went through with the brother, you couldn't, add another hour to his sleep. That's 7 more hours or so. He's still got over 20 hours of free time, right? And I think actually what you'll find in your own life is there are these things in our life that we just waste our time on and maybe regret it. So don't tell me you don't have time for a 1-hour Bible study or a D time or come to Devo because I don't have time. Oh my gosh. I started to use this tool for those people who would tell me they don't have time, and I found the I don't have time statement wasn't true 95% of the time. So what does this mean, though? Others have said it better than me, for sure. Lao Tzu, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, said time is a created thing. To say I don't have time is like saying I don't want to. Mark Anthony. We make time for the things we love and excuses for the things we don't. And lastly, William Feather said, we all find time to do what we really want to do. The issue is that people don't have time. It's that people don't want to spend their time on things that they don't deem worth it. What do we call that? Our priorities. The last point here is the sun. It's getting our life back on track. We need to get back on track revolving our life around God, who is the sun, instead of all these other planets in our life like Neptune and Pluto, if Pluto even is a planet. Proverbs 16, 1-3 says it really well, in my opinion. To humans belong the plans of the heart, but from the Lord comes the proper answer of the tongue. All a person's ways seem pure to them, but motives are weighed by the Lord. Commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans. When I read this scripture, I believe it's telling us to evaluate our priorities and speak about them with God. Not make our plans and just hope it works out. You got to pray about your plans. You got to talk about them with others. Committing the things we desire to God is necessary so he can weigh them and decide if they are good for us. I believe establishing our priorities makes many things in our life more straightforward. It keeps us focused on what's right, and it keeps you actually from burning out. You'll feel more fulfilled also, too. Something that helps me is another tool I picked up from a book called Leading on Empty. Shoot, did I bring it? I think I did. It's by Wayne Cordero, and it's a book that helps ministers manage their time and not burn out. But it gives some great practicals for people not in ministry too, and how to be more wise with your time. Cordero uses this tool to help people decide their priorities called the Divine Commission Priority List. Fancy term, Wayne. Great. What does that even mean? Cordero believes when we meet God, we won't be held accountable for how much we have done, but for how much we have done of what he has asked us to do. I'll read it again because that might be a little confusing. We won't be held accountable for how much we have done, but for how much we have done of what he has asked us to do. We each need to ask, what is most important in my life in God's eyes? Yeah. Or what does God want of me that I need to prioritize? I think it's helpful and useful to write a prioritization list answering this question. The reason we need to write it out is because there are always things demanding our time. Always. It's never going to end. My dad once said to me when I was a teenager, he said, if you can't learn to handle responsibility now, you'll never learn how to handle it later on, because it just topples and topples and topples and becomes more. And so a prioritization list is a simple but good way to visualize our values and bring us back to what's right. Often the images in our head of what our life is supposed to look like and what we write out looks different. And so what we're going to do, we don't really have the time, so you can go through it on your own time. I'm going to show you my prioritization list. What I want you to do during this class, after this class, later on, I want you to write out the 5 most important things for you in your life in God's eyes. All right? And I did this many years ago now. I have 6. Just felt like I needed 6. But when you write this, you need to be descriptive. What do you want each priority to look like? And you need to use verbs as you're writing this. So for example, my number 1 is a relationship with God that keeps me inspired. That's all that really matters at the end of the day. I don't want to just have a basic relationship with him. I want to have a relationship that drives me. It affects everything else in my life. Number 2, my wife is named Hannah. A healthy relationship with Hannah that is full of joy and peace. Happy wife, happy life, you know? If my marriage isn't healthy and if my wife doesn't feel taken care of, am I really loving her the way Jesus loved the church? I gotta fix myself on that often. Number 3. Then it's my job, quote unquote, baptizing people and raising up leaders, the main role of a campus minister. Next. Number 4, then it's leading a God-pleasing campus ministry. Am I a good leader in God's eyes? That's what really matters most, not what the students, of course it's important what the students think, but it's not as important as what God thinks of me. Next. Remaining healthy physically and mentally. If you know me in my life, I have had some pretty tough and scary life or health issues in the last 4 years or so. And so now I have to take it a little bit more easy. And I need to be more careful about how I spend my time. And then lastly, this is my last one. If you know me, I like to have a good time. I want to laugh so hard it hurts. I want to make memories with the ones I love. If you know me, this drives me in a lot of ways. I love to have a good time with people. I like to have a laugh, sometimes too much. But these 6 are the most important things in my life. Let your list ring true of your life. Post it on your bathroom mirror, the fridge, right above your desk is right above my desk is where I had mine. Make sure it's something you see often. Let it question your life and fill up your prayers. More than ever, people are blinded by the things that aren't on their priority list. There's just so many things trying to buy your attention. Put something else in your face. Your priorities. We become distracted, and we give, something else that we give to something else that God doesn't think is actually valuable for us. These things become forms of idolatry, It even becomes a form of identity for some. And I find more and more nowadays, it's actually a way to hide from our problems. I meet a lot of students who are doing something and they don't even know why, other than when we finally get to the root of it, I just don't want to deal with this other thing. Makes me sad, honestly, because I'm like, why? I just wish you were open, honestly, sooner. And then there's the other side of it, too. For many, it's also the excitement of opportunity, or what could be more. And I think that's what we're going to more so end with here. It reminds me of the parable of the rich fool. This will be one of our last passages here. It says, someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." But he said to him, "Man, who made me a judge or an arbitrator over you?" And he said to them, "Take care and be on your guard against all covetousness, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." And he told them a parable, saying, "The land of a rich man produced plentifully. And he thought to himself, 'What shall I do? For I have nowhere to store my crops.' And he said, 'I will do this. I will tear down my barns and build larger ones. And there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, be merry.' But God said to him, 'Fool, this night your soul is required of you. And the things you have prepared, whose will they be? So is the one who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God.'" A problem amongst disciples today is we become more rich towards work, school, or hobbies over God. We become like this rich fool in verse 18 where he says, "I will tear down my barns and build larger ones," with our schooling or our work. We say to ourselves, how can I become the perfect student? Or how can I maximize the amount of money I can make by working longer hours? Man, it's really easy to be tempted by. Thomas Merton said it in this way. He said, "The greatest temptations are not those that solicit our consent to obvious sin, but those that offer us great evils, masking as the greater good." We're so busy trying to maximize our own life sometimes. But what about maximizing the God's kingdom? There isn't enough of this. There isn't enough thinking of this. There's not enough speech about this, honestly, in our campus ministries here. It's something that really needs to change. We sometimes look like this rich fool and forget that we're actually living for God, not for the work, not for the school, or whatever your hobby is. The key to getting our life back on track is revolving it around God. He is our solar system. Last scripture here. "For in him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities, all things have been created through him and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together." He is that sun in the middle of our lives. Once we realize our life doesn't revolve around him, or we are just unsure of where we even stand in life right now, you just gotta stop. You gotta stop and just pray for a while. Just talk with God. Have a conversation with God. You don't need to have this lofty speech for him. You just talk with him, "Hey God, and I'll tell you, I have those conversations with him where I'm just like, "God, I feel overwhelmed. I feel like I don't give you enough of my time. I feel like this, I feel like that. You deserve more of my time." Let's just talk. And then I gotta ask, why am I getting my comfort and security from this God? Whatever this thing is. What am I going to do to make my revolution around God instead now? That's the two questions I usually ask myself in these moments then. What is the next decision I'm going to make to take away this gravitational pull from somewhere else? He's the center of our solar system, and if you aren't being gravitationally pulled by him, you are being gravitationally pulled by some other planet, like Neptune or Pluto. And we all need to keep that in mind, because there usually is something. We're going to end with some practicals here and then some Q&A, so have your questions ready in a bit here. I got a lot of practicals, maybe too many. But first one is what we already just talked about, but put your priority list somewhere you can see it every day. Read it every day until it becomes printed in your mind. And I actually, when I was preparing this lesson, I was like, you know what? I think I need to put my prioritization list back on my desk because I've forgotten some of these, actually. Next. Before you start each semester, do that 168-hour challenge with yourself. Minimize the things that you don't need, and then manually also put into your schedule the important things like reading your Bible, praying, church events, D times, and then plan everything else. Start with God, then school or work. Next. Then get advice. Oh, next, sorry. Yes, then get advice about your plans and pray about it. Have someone, like, show your schedule to somebody, have them just give their opinion. And that can be really hard, you know, at the times. Like, here's what I do in my week. Tell me what you think. And that can be a really humbling moment for somebody to be like, hey, I don't think this is wise. Or if somebody's maybe a little harsh, like, what the heck were you thinking here, dude? But we need that sometimes. You know, some of our decisions are not wise. We need that feedback. And sometimes we need somebody to be like, it doesn't look like you're prioritizing God very much in your week. Next. Plan your week every Sunday. Sunday evening. Sunday evening, look ahead at your schedule so that you're not surprised by each day that comes in the next week. I try to do this. I don't find myself really surprised by like some of my busy days anymore because I'm like, I looked at it on Sunday, I knew this was coming, and I'm planning for it mentally and also in my notes. Yeah, and look at each day and make sure, like, does this line up with my priorities? Foresee any conflicts in your schedule, then deal with them Sunday night. Some of you who maybe know me, are like, why does he message so much Sunday night? It seems like he's getting everything done all of a sudden right now, right? That's when I'm sending a lot of my messages or like trying to figure out my schedule sometimes. Next. Have what I call a bigger to-do list. Now, we all have like bigger, more important things to do in our life. Write them down by due date. This is something I do. I literally have a note in my phone. I have a lot of notes, like 426 to be specific, but one of them is literally all the biggest things I need to accomplish. One of them was this lesson. And I put them there by due date. And so I know that, all right, I got these big things that are going to come. I need to look at them often. I'm going to check them off. And I think when you have time outside of your normal plan time too, then I'm like, okay, what's the next big thing I need to do? I'm going to work on this and I'm going to get ahead of it. And so oftentimes I'm ahead of my work. Even though I'm really busy, I'm like, I got this sermon that's in 3 weeks, I'm already done. It's going to be done. And so by the time I'm already at that week, I'm like, I got other things to worry about, but that's also 3 weeks ahead. I'm ahead of it. Next. Use the Reminders app. Even in my Bible studies, actually, I will tell the people I'm studying the Bible, put it in your phone, read, and pray. And this is funny. I will literally, if I have a guy who I'm studying with, this person who I'm studying with, I said, I want you to take a picture of this brother. And I want you to put it in the reminder, and his face is going to come up every time you need to read your Bible. You'll never forget it. And I tell you, there's some teens I've done this with. They love it. They're like, oh, I got my Ryman emoji, or my Ryman reminder again this morning. And it just reminded me, I got to read. All right? It's just simple, but the Reminder app has saved me so often. I have like a crazy amount of reminders, stuff that's literally 6 months from now, years from now even. I got to remind myself to prepare for my wedding anniversary in a month. I got to start preparing for that now. I got to prepare for the camp that's in the summer. There are things I need to do ahead of time for that. I don't have all day to think about these things. So my phone does that mental work, and it just reminds me, and I'm like, okay, I guess it's time to do that. And that saved me so much time, honestly. Sometimes it's a lot of work to type it all and everything. Well, this is when I need this reminder. But I tell you, it saves so much time for myself. Next. Real simple, but have a Bible reading plan. If you need help finding one, ask your campus minister or church leader. I'm sure they have a couple. And then lastly, pray at the same times every day. This is routine. This is scientifically proven. When you do things at the same time every day, your brain will psychologically start to gravitate towards that then. Creates routine. One of the greatest writers on prayer, his name is E.M. Bounds, says we need to create this term. He uses this term. It's called importunity. It's the quality of repeatedly asking for something in a fearful and annoying way. And it really impacted me because then I imagined it as like, okay, you know what? At the same times every day, I'm going to ask for the same things of God. I'm going to annoy the heck out of God. And so that's actually the mindset I have with my prayers now. Is I'm trying to annoy God with my prayers. And I don't know why that pushes me sometimes. I'm like, even the same things that I go tired of, I'm like, I'm trying to annoy God with this until he gives me an answer. And so that is all the practicals that I can share. Maybe you haven't had more, but honestly, this is probably more than enough or so. I hope you got something out of this lesson. For the last 6 or so minutes, if any of you have any questions or specific thoughts or so, I'd love to hear them. We'll start with Patrick here.
Thank you so much for this. This is very useful. And my question was, how do you deal with failure? Because I know that at some point in our life, we've all been inspired to get on track, and we put something down, but then we find ourselves, not really following what we put down. And how do you deal with it? With also the shame before God, I find myself in that position.
Yeah.
I guess it's a lot of grace, it's a lot of Holy Spirit, but yeah, what advice would you give us as we are attempting to put our lives in order so that we can replicate around God?
2 or 3 things that come to my mind. First one is don't beat yourself up if you mess up, right? I mess up every week. I got 1,000 things to do, and I'm bound to forget 1 or 2 things because I don't know, maybe I accidentally clicked the reminder app and I'm like, oh, I went away or whatever. First off, don't be too harsh on yourself, right? This life is not going to be, you don't want to be a checklister all your life or so. I think what's important about a lot of these things do embody lists. I'm a very list-oriented person. These lists help me create routine. And because I don't have to think about doing these things, it makes it easier in those times actually for me to be more free-minded. Now, the question more so though is if I fail more so, how do I get back on track? Is that what I'm understanding? I think it really entails, for one, you got to have some sort of accountability. Get open about it. Hey, I keep messing up in this. I keep not reading my Bible. Get open about it. Have somebody ask you about it. I think that pushes us at times in a healthy way. It's okay, yeah, there's this big exam I need to study for, and I just keep not doing it. That's it. Disciple or mentor is going to be hey, I appreciate you sharing that. I'll just make sure to remind you about it or ask you about it next time we get together. And then the third thing I would say is just simply slow down and just rewrite it out, honestly. If you feel okay, I keep falling into this, maybe it's just too much for me. I need to, what's the quote about, if you can't reach your goals, don't cancel your goals, but reshape them or something along those, or move the goalposts in some ways or so, right? You have to make your goals achievable, I think. I know some think they need to be so far out of reach that they just push you beyond your extremities or whatever. I would disagree with that personally. You are trying to meet yourself where you're at in a lot of ways. And so for some people, they want to read the Bible for an hour a day. More power to you. For some, it's 10 minutes or so. I think if you read the whole book of James and you can't tell me what you got out of it, but I met somebody who read the first chapter of James and is telling me absolutely what impacted them on it, I think that's worth a lot more, personally. Your time is full of quality, not quantity. So hopefully that gives you an answer, but love you, man. Yeah?
Have you struggled with procrastination, and how do we not let it get in the way?
Okay, procrastination is an interesting thing. I'm not so much a procrastinator because I fear not getting things done on time. But my best friend, he's a procrastinator. And our friendship is interesting because I feel oftentimes it's me reminding him to do things. But I really do think I would tell him often, I was how often do you use your reminder app, honestly? I can't be your human reminder app all the time, I really think, because I know he would spend a lot of time on his phone. I know you're looking at your phone. Have that thing remind you at times. I know that's really simple, maybe not even the answer you're looking for, but I just think that there needs to be constant reminders of procrastination. But really the issue with procrastination is I just don't want to do this, I find. And so that's a different issue. That's not a time issue. That's a hard issue of or laziness. It's more so hey, let's get to the root of why you don't want to do this at all, right? That's not a time issue. So in those conversations, I am usually trying to get to the root of like, what is your biggest fear about this usually? It's usually a fear, in my opinion, but it depends. Okay, yeah.
Do you have any suggestions for how to be consistent with an inconsistent schedule? So, like for me at uni, this semester I've had 4 weeks of
Okay.
module, then 4 weeks
Yeah.
of full-time work on a placement, then 8 weeks of no module.
Yeah, I've seen that more in Europe. Universities like that. In America, it's like you got the same class every week, same time or whatever, which I like that system better. But it's okay. The classes change more in Europe. That's difficult, but that just means you have to rewrite your 168 hours, I think, every month, actually, then. That's really, that can be a lot of work in a lot of ways, but it's like, all right, again, every month I'm going to start with reading, praying, meetings of the body, meeting with people, and then what is my schedule? Not the opposite way or so. School's important, guys. You do need to prioritize that. If you're not, you're going to hear from me or somebody else. I didn't even say I'm in school right now. I'm in a master's program. I got to finish 2 books by Thursday already, And I've been trying to finish a book every 2 weeks right now for school. I have to. So I have it in my mind, I need to read at least 25 pages a day, at least. And sometimes I'm reading 50 or so. And that happens because each month I am like, okay, what is it going to require of me to actually accomplish these things? And it didn't take me long to figure out, okay, I got to read minimum 25 pages a day. And so because of that, I'm on time with everything. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay. Okay, one more. Yep.
What's your advice on scheduling for buffers?
Yeah, like break time kind of, or?
Yeah, it's like for if something takes longer than you expected, or if something pops up.
Put it in your schedule too. Honestly, I will put my Bible studies in my schedule at times, and I will put extra time on them because I don't know if it's going to go long, honestly. Or if I know I have this D time that I try to keep my D times to an hour, but sometimes I know I'm going to have maybe a tougher conversation. I add more time on my schedule. I'm going to have dinner with this person, add extra time. So then when I'm planning ahead, and I'm like, this brother I got this dinner from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. Let's say I put it 6 to 9 o'clock. I'm like, even though I know that dinner's probably going to be just 2 hours. That last hour is actually more so just me chilling with my wife, actually. And I set apart that time. And I'm like, brother's like, oh, I want to meet at 9. I'm like, hey, man, I don't think I can do it. I want to meet with you, but let's just choose a different day. I got this time. I know this dinner's not going to take 2 hours. But I plan the buffer hours, too, actually. So my schedule, sometimes it's like, wow, that looks like a lot in the day. It's really not. Sometimes. It's because it's actually like I even will put in the commute time, or like how long is it going to take for me to get there, really, all that stuff. So then when I'm actually planning with somebody, it's actually accurate, the time. That like, okay, I can actually make it at this time too. Computing the buffer time too. Interesting question. I've never heard that one. Appreciate that. Okay, well, I really do hope you grabbed at least one thing from the class today. You guys were awesome, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, all right? See ya.